if you do this right, it's really, really powerful. So then again, if you have somebody leading it, please go and try to generate these minds instead of getting lost in your notebook again. You know, this gathering of notes, it can become totally obsessive also. And how many times do you really look at your notes, to be honest? Yeah. This is why also they really stress the oral transmission. This is where you get is much more powerful. But yeah, we're collecting, we're gathering, but then it's in your notebook, and then your notebook will get enlightened at one point. And you are being left behind. You know, I mean, I don't say that you should not make notes, but it actually teaches, they freak out if you take out your notebook while they lead a meditation. Because you're supposed to meditate. You're not supposed to make notes. You're supposed to generate these minds, and you cannot generate minds if you are writing, or if you are, if you're making notes.
No, I'm just looking, because it refers to the question. I wanted to assimilate what you said yesterday, so this is why I look.
Yeah, but it's like...
I'm sorry.
No, don't feel sorry. It's just to, when somebody is leading meditations, try to generate these minds. This is what it's for, because it's very difficult to generate these minds alone if you have nobody leading it, unless you listen to some guided meditations. And it's a very important fact in your practice, this analytical meditation, because otherwise you're not making any progress. Yeah, hearing is the first step. Then you have it in your head, but that doesn't transform anything yet. Then reflecting on it, what we do here, that's the next step. Then when you have, with the help of somebody else, when you have generated these minds, then you're able to generate them alone by just reading the practice, by just reading the line. And then you put your awareness on it. Then you practice shamatha on the feeling, not on the thought, but on the feeling of devotion, gratitude, and all these kind of things. Yeah. So I'm trying to help you so that you do make some progress, because otherwise it's like, okay. And also to feel that thing that we have to gather these informations, and then you're not really there. This is the thing, when we meditate. During the teachings, of course, you can make all the notes that you want. If somebody's leading a meditation, then try to go along with it, to nourish these kind of positive minds. And then you can carry them out in your daily life, Because even you take your notebook with you, in your pocket all the time, it doesn't change anything in your life. Yeah. Okay? Shall we continue with the verses? I think we were on verse 17, isn't it? So we had the disadvantage of giving up bodhicitta, and then the appreciation of precious human rebirth. Why I should do it now? Because as you said yesterday, so many Buddhas have come. But when we're in the lower states, it's very difficult for them to touch us, because we can't practice, because the suffering is so intense. Yeah? And this is where it goes now. This is where he starts to, again, work with our fear about being born in the lower states. When Lama Zopa Rinpoche, when you do purification prayers or whatever, practices, when he says, every minute I practice more imprints for being reborn in the lower states, we think, what? Not me. I'm not killing. And like one course we had I was taking killing when we discussed karma, and the person said, well, can we take something else, because most probably none of us here kills. So I said, what about mosquitoes? aha. Yeah. You see, our mind, our ego somehow has decided what is positive and what is not, or what is negative and what is not negative. So killing mosquitoes is not killing for most of the people. Killing rats is not killing. And there, you have hamsters and you have rats. So if you kill a hamster, it would be seen as very, very not beneficial because they sell them in the shops. And if you kill a rat, then of course, chop, go and kill them. So like this. So from most of the things we do, we're not aware of what we're doing because we don't have awareness, we don't have conscientiousness, we don't see it. Yeah? Also many things that we say, we're not even aware. There's no... If you have awareness, right after you've done something negative, there's a negative feeling coming up, so this will make you stop. Because it's actually wisdom who says, hey, yeah? And it will make you be interested in doing purification practices. So this is why. And then what about the wrong view that things exist from their own side, that we nourish even in our dreams while we are dreaming? Yeah? Inherent real existence. That is one of the negative actions of the mind. What about not really believing in rebirth? What about not really believing in our my believing is not believing is not a negative action actually, but being convinced that I cannot attain enlightenment. Yeah. Very often, instinctively we tend to that side. Instead of nourishing this potential that we have, we nourish this is too difficult for me. Yeah. So then, of course, then the mind goes to that side. Yeah. Okay. So verse 17 goes in that direction. And with behavior such as this, I shall not win a human body again. And if this human form is not attained, there will be solely evil and no virtue. So you see, one has a tendency also to think, well, if I'm born in the hell states, then my negative karma gets purified, and then I'll come out of it again. But you live in that, it's a life. So you have to defend yourself, and you're fighting, because everybody is out to get you. Yeah, like hell states is a constant war zone. So you're not just sitting there and thinking, okay, they're exalted my negative karma. You don't have the wisdom when you're there. So hell states, it's a mental state actually. It's a mental state of paranoia, fear, and aggression. And you're constantly warding things off. You don't even have attachment because there's so much aggression and so much fear that you can't even think of beautiful things because you're so busy kind of warding off the pain. Yeah? So, creating, what does it say? There's solely evil and no virtue. It's very difficult to practice virtue there. But it is said that the Buddha, as a Bodhisattva, this one Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, was not the first one. There have been numerous Buddhas before, but this is the one we know, and this is where we have the teachings from, that when he was in the hell states and somebody was made to pull a very, 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 very heavy cart, and he was beaten by the hell guardians, which is again is our own negative emotions that beat us. And so because he had been somehow practicing compassion before, he had this thought, like he had a spontaneous thought that all of a sudden the mind went there instead of going, oh, this is terrible, I should kill these ones who beat him or whatever. May I take the suffering of that person? And that was it. He went out of the hell states just because of that thought. But these thoughts need to be ready. They need to be practiced before, so the mind carries them with us when we go to the lower states. This is why now it is so important to generate these positive states, so that we still have them, and maybe by chance, who knows, by some coincidence at the time of death, maybe the mind goes into one of those thoughts. Who knows? But if there's no deposit of these thoughts anywhere, then, we get deeper and deeper into the swamp. It's quite amazing to see actually when people have been practiced for a while, even they think they're no good practitioners, when something negative happens to them, they always come up with the positive side first. Naturally. You know? They think, oh well, now I don't have to go to work anymore if they're really sick, or oh well, now this and this. Because there's always a positive side to the whole thing. And it's quite amazing. Or they have a lot of humor to say, oh, imagine what happened now, my gosh, how am I going to get out of this now? Yeah. But having the confidence also by seeing what is happening in your life, by really being present, and not only in the future all the time or hanging around in the past, by seeing that I had difficult situations before and they're gone. I overcame them to develop that trust. There is continuity. Yeah. So this is the sign of a trained mind. And it's not only Buddhists who do that. There are people who do that very, very naturally. But most of the people, the first thing they see is the negative side. And then they complain and get themselves deeper and deeper into the misery. Instead of, evaluating, okay, that's the situation, it's not good, what do I do now? No, this one is to blame, it's their fault, and this and that, and then, Can you write your questions? Because then I can continue. So, and I answer them this evening, because otherwise we will not be able to finish. Huh?
No evening. Afternoon.
No, evening. In the afternoon before we finish. Okay, now we could debate, is 5 o'clock evening? Okay. So then we're still with awareness. We have to be awareness of your actions. What you do. And if you can do something, no matter how small, you do it. Or at least have the thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if I would do this now? So at least you create the energy that at one point you will reach out. Yeah. But just passing by and not doing anything and having a bad conscience, there's no point, Like this place here is such a beautiful place to create virtue. By doing what? By doing what? Help what?
To help
when you're in silence. To collect, not to offer, to collect the garbage. To collect the garbage that is lying around. And I tell you, this place gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And the garbage is actually manageable. You can pass somewhere, not where there's a lot of people. But now, because I usually go behind here, there's almost nothing. Only 3 plastic bags this morning. But then also I passed them, and then I thought, hey, what are you doing? You used to collect it when there was a lot, so why do you let them here now? I have to go back. And I thought this will be your meditation. So you go out of it, and you move, and you're aware, and with your awareness, you're looking for the garbage, and you pick them up. And every time you pick up something, you think, I'm picking up one of my delusions, and I'm throwing them away. It's a very powerful practice, by the way. When you clean at home, you do like this also. This is not ordinary dust here. These are my delusions. Yeah. So you have some exercise, you will go for a walk, and it will be helpful. And that's what we can do, Does that sound appealing? Instead of just, seeing the garbage and go, oh, these people, they're throwing everything away. And they're throwing everything out. I'm always putting it in the container. I hope you do, as a spiritual practitioner.
We have also.
Wow, she has gloves even, so we can give them gloves. Yeah, okay. Perfect. So this will be your awareness meditation at 11 o'clock until lunch. So you have to check the time yourself. But try to do it for 45 minutes. Yeah. 18. Okay. If, when I have the chance to live a wholesome life, here, so now at 11 o'clock you have the chance to do something. And then see how you feel after you've done it. And see how you felt when you were maybe it has happened to you that you passed an area where there's a lot of plastic lying around, and what does the mind say, and then see how you feel when the mind just says something instead of picking it up, and then see how you feel when you actually do pick it up. It's no big deal. So you see, we're waiting for the big actions to do, and then we don't do the small ones. So we can start with the small ones. And then it's also helpful for the kibbutz. If I when I have a chance to live a wholesome life, my actions are not wholesome, then what shall I be able to do when confused by the misery of the lower states? Yeah, so this is clear. So he is making us aware that whenever we can, to plant seeds. Yeah, and to plant the seeds not in your notebook, but to plant the seeds in your mind. And to feel, this is it, getting contact, this is also awareness, to be, to see what's going on inside. And then our natural intelligence starts to understand. We don't need then that intellect. It really starts to understand, hey, I feel much better when I do this, and it will automatically go that way. But only when you're aware of what is happening here. Most of the time we're not aware. We're only aware when it's really big. Yeah. But here he's really encouraging us to train to be aware all the time and to plant healthy seeds whenever we can. So when you pick up the garbage, instead of being angry at those who throw it out, you say, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to pick something up, for example. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be free from suffering. And then again, you check, what kind of effect does it have on you? Yeah? But then we think it's so banal and it's so, childish or whatever, because we want to do the big things. We want to realize emptiness. And so that's what we're interested in. The rest, then you start to plant those seeds when we have the opportunity. Don't walk by banal. Banal, you say, you know what banal is? It's like unimportant. So use these occasions that we have. And if I commit no wholesome deeds there, but readily amass much evil, so it's not here, it's there in our next rebirth, but readily amass much evil, then for 100 million eons I shall not even hear the words, a happy life. Yeah. You don't see any Buddhas there. Not because they're not there, but because our mind is so intent. Yeah. And so Pema Chodron, she gives a very good example. So she says, when we're well and our heart is open, then it's easy to open our heart towards the suffering of others. When we are not well, then it's very, very difficult. So she says, imagine you are about to starve and somebody gives you a bowl of rice. Starve, like die from hunger, like you haven't, like the people from the Holocaust. And so many other people now still, Africa or refugee camps, when the city is like in Syria, not so far away, when the city is totally closed, no medicine, no food, no this, no that. There were pictures of starving children for a while. Now also has disappeared again. So somebody gives you a bowl of rice. So your fear of dying of hunger, or you're wanting to share with somebody else, what would be stronger? What do you think? Somebody that next to you, not your child, not your father or mother. With your child you would share it, absolutely, you would even give it the whole bowl. But would we be ready, like this short term, I don't want to die from hunger, would we not just totally neglect others? So then we can see how, now that we are not in those difficult situations, now we have to learn to share. So then there it comes naturally and easily. Rinpo Rinpoche, what he said when he was in prison, it's a Tibetan, by a Chinese prison, one of the prisoners had a little bit of tsampa left. Tsampa is this barley flour that is roasted, and you can just put tea or water, a bit of salt, lots of butter if they have, of course. but that's their staple food, and they all love it, even though they eat it every day. I mean, if they go without tsampa, you can bring them the most beautiful, healthy bread. You give them tsampa, they take the tsampa. Isn't it so, Mie? Yeah. So sometimes I need somebody who can affirm it. So what he did, in order to share it with the other prisoners, he burned it, so that they could have the smell. When I tell these stories, I have tears in my eyes. This is when I start crying, you know. And Rinpoche Rinpoche said, this time in prison was the best time in my life, because I really had to practice, and I could see it works. And he said, my main practice was Tonglen. I took the future suffering of my torturers, so that they don't have to suffer. And he said, and the more I did it, the better it worked. And I was under the impression that they stopped harming him. He said, the more I did it, the more they beat me, and the happier I got. The more I had to take from them. Wow. You know, this strength of mind, and it's a human being who has, because he has practiced that from very young age. He's a Rinpoche, although he's been a monk, and, you know, in his previous lives. And he has zero anger for the Chinese, and he has a lot of compassion. He says, you know, there is more Chinese who suffered under that system and still suffer than Tibetans. And it's our karma. Yeah? Wow. This is what I find inspiring, you know. And I was lucky enough to have so close contact with these people. And he would, whenever one of us would start to complain, he has a few Western disciples. One of them is Richard Gere. When we came with Richard Gere to see him, then Rinpoche, we said, you know, he's a very famous actor, and all the ladies love him. He looked at Richard and said, what, this one? He's all grey. What are they? What? This? Yeah. So Richard Gere he fell in love with him immediately. I mean, he was totally taken away by him. And he wanted to take him to America, and he said, I'll build you a house. So Rinpoche said, oh, how much would that house cost? So then Richard said, well, you know, a few millions. He said, you have that amount of money? And he said, yeah, I have. So he said, well, if you have that amount of money, I don't need a house, you know. I have my room here. He just had a room, you know, a room where the kitchen is in the same room in Namgyal Monastery. So I have a room here. I'm okay. I have a cook. He cooks for me, and he had his cousin with him also, a woman, very nice woman. So, but you could. There's a lot of monks in South India who don't have health insurance. How about you invested there? And out of this came what is called the Gere Foundation, which now these monks have health insurance, so that they can be treated. Yeah. And then Rinpoche still went to America. And you know, Richard still built him a house, but he was mostly living in another house of Pope Caton, I think, and just just in a room, basically. So I don't need a house for myself. Why would I need a house? So he had he was like the perfect grandfather. Everybody just melted, you know, when he came. He was a compassionate person also, and he suffered so much. He was in a wheelchair for quite a while because his body was so broken. Yeah, but he said that time in the prisons, then I really practiced, and I could see that this works. I was so happy. It was my best time for my practice and on my path to full awakening. So there you go. Yeah. So there are some very strong people. So even in those difficult situations, they can practice virtue. But would we be able to do that when things get tight? Yeah. I wouldn't. So this is why I know I have to practice now. Whatever little occasion comes, I have to plant these seeds now. Yeah. So what is Shantideva was telling us? You know, when you are suffering, or when he talks to himself, but also when the suffering is so intense. Check if you still have interest in creating virtue and to share and looking after others, or if your main concern is just I, me, to check it. Okay, then 20. Now, this one example. For those very reasons, the Buddha has said that like for a turtle to insert its neck into a yoke adrift upon the vast ocean, it is extremely hard to attain the human birth. So this example also comes in sutra, but it comes much more, even more rare, because it says the turtle is blind and it only comes up once every 100 years. So what's the chance? There's a kind of rings floating on the ocean. And the turtle here doesn't even, it's not so bad. Let's take this one. The turtle comes up, but what's the chance that this turtle puts its head through this ring? Is very small. And this is the chance for us to get a precious human rebirth. Not just a human rebirth, because there's many human rebirths, but precious, where we take advantage of it, where we use it for the right thing to attain liberation and then full enlightenment, to plant these virtuous seeds. Yeah? So then we should value that very, very much instead of just wasting it away. Yeah? We're not aware of its value. This is the thing. We're not aware of its value. We're not aware of its preciousness. And I'm talking we because I'm the same. You know, again, I have it in my notebooks and I have it in my head. But I don't have it here. It's not deep enough. And I don't see its fragility, how quickly it can decay. Precious human rebirth can finish in this life. I can lose interest in the whole thing. Here. At the moment, at least I have interest, at least I feel inspired. But also, it's only coming occasionally, not all the time, not 24 hours a day. Same thing, you know, if you would win the lottery, a few millions, you would be aware of that now you're a millionaire for how many days?
Maybe a year.
Huh?
Maybe more than a year.
That's what you think now.
You get used to it so quickly.
Yeah, and then you start to, then again samsara comes in, the problems of it. Everybody comes to ask me for money, you know. I have it, shall I give it? Is it beneficial? Shall I not give it? Do I say yes? Do they like me because I have the money, or do they like me because the way I am? So you see, if you have friends, and you are not rich, and you're not beautiful, and you're not famous, and you still have friends, you can trust them. They like you for what you are. If you're very beautiful, if you're very rich, and if you're very famous, you don't know. Your beauty goes, your money goes, your being famous goes. Then the Dalai Lama usually says, they also say, bye-bye, and they go and find somebody else, rich, beautiful, and famous. So if you complain about being, you know, not so famous, not so rich, not so beautiful, like inside, and you think this is why you're lacking friends, that's not true. You're lacking friends because you're too much self-concern. That is why. It's difficult to be with you. That's why people don't want to be with you. You know. There's these beautiful movies where, you know, these incredibly ugly creatures, because they have such a good heart, then had start crying again. Then start, you know, E.T. I don't know if the young people still know that movie. You know. He's so ugly. I mean, he's really ugly. You know, no hair, and this guy. You remember him with his kind of folds at his neck, his big eyes, and the mouth. But he's got such a beautiful mind. Yeah. Or the Elephant Man, same thing. Yeah. Like so, and how he was able to touch the people. Even now, you know, just saying his name. You see that the impact these very beautiful movies can have on people's minds when they're open to, when they're interested in being good and kind. Yeah. And it's okay to shed tears for these things, I think. It's not, you know, it's out of inspiration and the beauty of it. When the kids of my ex-boyfriend were still small, and when we, you know, then of course with kids you watch movies. So some of those kids' movies are so inspiring, and they never cry. But then they said, no, we can't watch this with Auntie Rita because she'll start crying. So they knew when the film was very inspiring, that was. So then I tried to explain, but I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm inspired. So it's again. But they would make fun of me because I started to cry when something beautiful happened and something kind. So again, try to find these